let us invite one of the incredible educator from the United States of America, and her name is Connie Hall, and she is outstanding educator. In fact, I have gone through her profile. Even I happen to watch some of your videos also. The
Okay.
way you dealt with your students, you entered the teaching profession way back 1994, and you
Yes.
have received Nevada Best Teacher Award in 2023. Uh, so what an incredible journey. I think 29 years after serving the students, you received outstanding award from the Nevada Education Department. And I also heard that you hold two bachelor degrees in early education and one
Yeah.
master degree in curriculum and instruction. Really a great honor for me. It's a great privilege.
I'm doing fine.
This is Dikshit and I'm Reda from JPH Salavaram. It's my pleasure to ask you a question. Can I, ma'am?
Yes.
How do you address the varying developmental needs of students within the same classroom?
How do I address the developmental needs of students in the same classroom? That is something as a teacher you have to be prepared for because just like every face differs, so do their needs differ. And I am thankful that I have the ability to get to talk to students. And after I'm around them for a few moments, I can kind of see things that they need or um, if they need that extra support. So I like to build those relationships. So that is one of the key things, building the relationships with the students. And for what I'm able to do now with kindergarten, because I'm teaching kindergarten, we have an opportunity the week before the kindergartners start school, we do a screening. And so in the screening, we can ask questions to them and just to see where they are. And sometimes the kids come in and they're nervous, and I'm letting them know this isn't anything to be nervous about. This helps me to know how to help you. And I'm always telling the students, I'm a teacher. I'm not looking for you to have the right answers all the time. Because one of the things with brain research, we learn from our mistakes. The mistakes help our brains to grow. So sometimes kids are caught up in the thing that, oh, I have to have the right answer. No, if you don't have the right answer, that's what I'm here to show you. And then when you go through the process, so in that screening, I tell the kids, don't worry, it's not a right or wrong answer. What you're able to tell me that you know and understand, then that gives me the guidelines when we're in the classroom and I'm working with um, different levels. Because right now, this particular year, I have students that are on, very basic kindergarten level, and I have students that are reading maybe at fifth, sixth grade level in there. So it varies, but I just take that approach. There are some things that we do in class that are the whole group. And you want those skills because I deal with the primary grades and they need all those basic skills to develop the other areas. So everybody comes together for whole group for those basic skills. Then when it's other times, I have my students that don't need as much support. I can give them some advanced materials to help strengthen their skills. And then I'm able to pull some of those that need more support into small groups. So I give them that support in a small group. And also, if there's some that really will need that support in order to be able to complete the standards that we want for our students.
How do you incorporate culturally responsive teaching practices in a kindergarten setting?
Okay. So how do I incorporate what the families in the community in my classroom? That is very important to me. I'm a relational person and I love building relationships with my students and their families. And actually, in my years of teaching, some of my best friends have become the parents of some of my students that we have stayed connected, and my students and their families have become like families to me. So that has just been a vital part, having those relationships built with the families, because that communication is so important. And I don't take what I do as just a year. I know that I have them for a year in my classroom, but what I do for them and the relationships go beyond that. So I stay in touch with my students from beyond. I still have they're adults, they're married, they have kids, and I still stay in touch with them. And also within the community, that is something important to me as well. So, a few things that I do as far as community, we have our public television station. And so, I don't know if you've heard of our PBS, public television station
No.
that we have over here. And so what they offer they'll come into our school 4 times a year and they'll offer STEM classes to the students. And it's nice because they have their broadcasting station and they have other resources, but they come and offer free classes within the classroom. So that's a nice way to connect with our community. And they also um, give information that I can share with parents on other things that they can use. They even shared one of the last times with me papers to give to the parents if they did not have access to technology at home, that they would be able to get computers for free. So I was able to get those resources. We have sponsors from our local communities that sometimes will help in our school, and that's important because we don't get a lot of funding. So they'll provide help to pay for computers. And I've been so excited the last, what, 3 school years, I was able to get an active board in my classroom, and I am so excited. And each of my students have an opportunity to have their own iPad and computer. And when I started off, I never thought in my teaching career that I would see the day to have an active board to have each of my students. And that was because of community partners that said, "What does your school need?" And they came in, and the people in that program, they wrote checks for our school, and we were able to get that. So it's nice having the relationships with the community because there are people there that have the funding that can help to provide some of the needs for our classroom. But with the parents, it's important because it's that partnership. And parents need to, and kindergarten is like that first introduction into school over here in the United States. More so, you have some schools that have pre-kindergarten, but kindergarten is actually that bridge that starts them into their educational career. So one of the things with that at the beginning of the school year, I will offer a kindergarten kickoff. So in the kindergarten kickoff, school has maybe been in session for a week or two, and the parents come. This is a free event, and they're able to come, and the district provides backpacks with different materials that the kids can have at home. And this is all sponsored through our school district that's over there. They give materials to give to the parents. What I do is facilitate and say, these are some of the expectations that your child has for this year in kindergarten. And these are ways to help them at home. So I will show them activities. I'll show them things they can make with pencil and paper. I'll show them ways to support their child, because letting the parents know everybody learns different. Some students need more support. Some students may not need that, but also allowing the parents to understand that. So having the kickoff for kindergarten parents. Also, by the middle of the year, around January, because our school goes from August until June. So in January, I offer a transition to kindergarten. So those are for parents of students that are in pre-kindergarten or that 4-year-old age. So this helps them. They can come into the school. There are flyers that are sent out in the community. Parents are able to come in, they're able to see the school. And in that session, I share with parents these are the things that you can do to support your child at home to prepare them for kindergarten and things that they'll be learning. And that event was real, the parents really appreciated it because some didn't have an idea, because you have some that these are their first children that are starting school. Before it was more if you had a brother or sister and parents had an understanding. But now I'm starting to get this is the first child from families starting into school. So giving that understanding. And in a few weeks, not a few, yes, in a couple of weeks, I'll be hosting Transition to First Grade. So all the current kindergarten students, their families can come, and I will talk with them on ways to prepare their child over the summer to help them for first grade and kind of what to expect. So those kind of events, and I host family literacy clubs for kindergarten to second grade families where they can come in and learn how to support. So that bridge is there because our school is a short day. They start at 8:45 in the morning and they get out at 2:45. So they need other things. They need that other time to get some support at home besides what I'm able to do at class. So
What advice would you give to new teachers entering the profession today, particularly those working with early learners?
all right. So what advice would I give new teachers? One of the main things that I would say is you have to have a commitment to what you're doing. You have to have a commitment. And for me, when I started actually working with children in 1984, and 1984 was, and I was 14 years old when I started. I actually did it before, and I would invite some of the young mothers in the community. I would have them to bring their kids over to my house so the moms could have an opportunity to have time for themselves. And I would play with the children. My mom was there. We provided lunch for them. And so it was always in my heart for being there for children and for families. So that was a early thing for me. And then starting to work with at different camps and doing when they would do parenting programs and doing different things for the kids while the mothers were getting training. So that is part of my commitment. From the earliest of age, I was committed and I felt that I was destined to work with children and I wanted the younger children. I liked that age group. And usually sometimes the younger kids, and I don't know if you all have, if you have siblings, but sometimes people like, oh, the little kids and they whine and they don't want to do anything. But I just found a joy in working with the younger children. And so having that commitment, because there's some like, I could not do that all day. But I said, I enjoy working with, in my grade now, there are five, they start off five and they're turning six. So a lot of them are in the process after school starts, they're turning 6 year old. But I enjoy working with that age group. So I have that commitment. Also, going into the teaching profession, you have to know that it's going to be a lot of work. It's not going to be an easy task, but I love what I do. There are nights that I'm up working, and you probably understand this. I'm up working at night, and my son is like, Mom, you're probably the only teacher up at night. I said, No, there are others, because if you really want to get the things for your students, you have to have that commitment. It's not going to take place during those school hours, because during school hours, as a teacher, you're teaching. And so you have to do all the others. So, no, having that commitment to what you're doing, you have to love what you're doing. And it's very sad when I see some that are in the profession and they don't, and some have, I've heard people say, I don't like kids. It's like, how can you be a teacher and you don't like kids and you don't want to be around them? But that commitment, understanding that it's going to be a lot of work. And there's sometimes that people feel in the teaching profession, they look at the breaks, that we get winter breaks, we get spring breaks and summer breaks. But what I say about those breaks, Those are breaks, but we don't get paid for those breaks. And sometimes people don't understand. I was like, we only get paid for the days that we're in school with our children. But you're preparing for things, during those other times. So you have to have that commitment. You just can't go in like, okay, well, I'm going to get here, even though my students come at 8:45. My contract starts at 8:15 and it ends at 3:15. And so I started teaching in 1994. That's over 30 years ago. I've only had one time in my career that I got to school at contract time and I left. That is not a norm for me because you want to be ready. You're there early to get things set up. And then after school, you're there to make sure that you're prepped. So you have to have that commitment. And the other thing is to be a forever learner. You never stop learning. You want to stay current in what you're doing, and you want to read. You want to stay focused. Like, what are the latest things that are out, in education, and artificial intelligence is one of the big things. So I have to even stay abreast with that on how I can, what's that going to do with my early childhood classroom. So staying updated with all the current things, reading with that. And since I work with the early childhood, I need to understand how a 4-year-old work, the 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, how they learn, how they're able to understand. So those are some of the things. Another important, and these are things that I live, in my life. So, hello.
My name is Gayatri Salvi. I am studying 7th grade. Can I ask one question, ma'am?
Yes.
What strategies do you use to keep young learners engaged and motivated in the classroom?
Oh, the strategies that I use. One of the things, again, I know I went over this before, but it comes across everything. Building those relationships with the students and understanding is important to know how to keep them motivated. So when I get to understand the things that my students like, some of the things that motivate them at home, that helps me. And at the beginning, I always give the parents a survey of their child to find out different things about their child. And in that way, that's motivation. I have a lot of students this year that like dinosaurs. They like dinosaurs. And so with that, ever so often we'll have dinosaur day and they can bring dinosaurs in and they can discuss, and some like to share information because they have really studied this, so they're able to share. Then they're able to get the blocks out and they build different structures, for some of the dinosaurs and animals. So that has been a motivation for some of the students, and every year is different. Every year you're going to have students that like different things. The other for keeping them engaged is brain breaks. And brain breaks is just in the middle of what we're doing, we'll stop because if I'm teaching, I may have 10 minutes to go over a concept that I'm teaching. And then we get up, I say, go get a sip of water, go stretch. Then I'll put on a short video and they're doing different exercises to get those wiggles out. And then I said, okay, you've had your wiggles. Now it's time to come back to learning. And I've realized it's not just kids that like wiggles. When I've have done presentations or work with adults, I stop and give them brain breaks as well. So having those breaks in between, letting them process what was just learned is one of the other ways too, after I getting to know them. And then there are different ways. Sometimes we'll write, I'll give whiteboard markers. They can write on the table, and that's something that they love. It's different. They can write on the table. Sometimes we'll get chalk, the chalk, and they'll go and write outside. So those are some different ways to keep them engaged because we just do lessons and we do things differently. And now I said I have the interactive board so they can come up and they can touch on the screen, and I'll have different activities programmed in there that they can use. So I'm able now to incorporate more technology, which I didn't at the beginning of my career. I do lots of singing. I have songs for everything. I've made up lots of songs. So if it's a song, if we're learning about something, I'll start singing a song and the kids pick up. So there's lots of music in my classroom. There's lots of movement, and there's going to be those times to stop and get water. And I encourage them. They all have, as I keep my water, I have a little cup holder by each of their learning places. And so I encourage them to have their water bottles there because we talk about how water is good for us and for our brains. So we're just stopping. It's not just like constant, okay, we're just here and we're going to keep working. And also making the environment fun, that we laugh. And young children, they learn through play. So having those opportunities for them to play and use other manipulatives, the blocks and counters, and all of those things keeps them engaged. And I have my classroom has a lot of different materials. It's to the point when I get my grandbabies, they're like, Mimi, we want to come to your classroom. So they like coming to my classroom because they know all the different things that I have, but just making it welcoming. They know I love them and I care, and we just have fun. At the end of the day, the bell rings. A lot of times they don't want to go home because we're in the midst of something, but just having that environment, having a positive environment where they can feel safe and ready to learn.
Have you ever come across a situation where your students come back to your school and they appreciate your teaching abilities? Because of you, I have reached to this position. Because of you, I have achieved this and that. So that is the biggest achievement being a teacher. And of
Mhm.
course, we are being a teacher, we are paid a monthly or something like that. But this is the highest worth any teacher can get. If a
Mhm.
student that we teach come back again, and
Mhm.
you are amazing because of you, credit goes to you, because of you, I have reached to this position. So I think you have had such a number of experiences because you are absolutely amazing educator. Could you please share with us those moments?
Thank you. Oh, those are the special moments of when I have a student to come back, or when I have a student to share, or a parent to write me. Those are the moments that always touch my heart because I put my heart and soul into what I do. And I have even the younger students, they realize that I go the extra mile. And I've had students that realize that I go above and beyond. And it's nice for me when they appreciate it. This was something, one of my special moments. Well, I had a student, a former student, and I taught him because I've always taught the younger grades. So I've had students between pre-K, kindergarten, third was the highest, and a student I taught in second grade. And I connect with them on social media now. I keep up with them. And he had just gotten his Juris Doctorate and was becoming a lawyer. And I was writing on his page and I was saying, I'm so excited for you. I'm so happy for you. And he wrote me back. He said, No, Mrs. Hall. He was like, This is our Juris Doctorate. You were the one that inspired me. And for me, I know that I taught them at a younger age, but for the students to, even after they're up, they said, I remember what you did for me in that age, and you inspired me. And so that's just something for me to know that I've worked with them at a younger age and they're older and they still remember. And that's why it's so important for me, the climate that I build in my classroom, that positive environment, that students feel safe and they know that I care. And so I still have, when something happens to a student, their parents will write me. They're like, they wanted you to know that this happened to them. They're like, Mrs. Hall cares. And they want to know. So that was a special one when that student said that. And this other one was really nice. When I was in the 2023 cohort for State Teachers of the Year, and we had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. for a week. And during that time, one of the days, this was when the previous administration was in and the Bidens were in office. And we were all invited for a special day at the White House. So that was really exciting. And I had heard about a former student that worked for the president. And I wasn't sure, and I tried to get in contact with them, and I didn't hear back. But we were in Dr. Biden, First Lady. She had us in for a town hall meeting, and Dr. Cardona, who was the education secretary at the time. And so they were asking us different questions. So I mentioned something about what I do in my classroom. I was answering the question and mentioned about my student, having a student that worked in the White House, not knowing that one of the staffers had contacted them and said, your teacher just told Dr. Biden about you. And so I did not know that. So we were out in the Rose Garden and the ceremony ended, and I hear Mrs. Hall, Mrs. Hall, and I turn around, and this was a student and I taught her in first, second, and third grade. That was when I taught in Michigan, in the United States. So I taught her first, second, and third. And she was the producer for all the media that came from the president from his Oval Office. She was over that. And so I'm hugging her and telling her I'm so proud of her. And she's telling me what you taught me, how you inspired me, helped me to know that I could do a job like this. And so I'm sitting there with tears in my eyes to see, they were there honoring me at the White House, but I was like, no, look at these are one of my students that I taught, and to see, the accomplishments that they've made and they remember what happened in our classroom or the words of encouragement that I said or the things that I taught them and how it helped them to develop. All of those stories are special from students, and I still get notes from parents, and the parents are thanking me for for what I've done for their kids. And like I said, I've stayed in touch with a lot of the parents and they write me. And so teacher appreciation took place here in the United States, and I got gifts from my current students, but I was getting gifts from former students and their parents. So I've taught them several years and they're still coming back to hand me gifts and to thank me. And I had a parent to come up and she was like, you haven't taught my kid, but just the interaction. And I speak with this family. They're like, just who you are. They wanted to give me a gift. And I was like, it just touched my heart. I love what I do. And I'm there not just for the students in my classroom, but for any parent, that needs me. And those stories, and like I said, during my career, I keep all my little notes, all the little pictures that they draw. I keep them in there. Sometimes now when I find a note, I'll take a picture of it and I'll message it to the student through Facebook, and I'll show them this is what they wrote when they were in my class.
Thank
And
you so much, Connie, for your lovely time, and we enjoyed it, and it's quite inspirational for us. So, before we wind up this session, may I request you to give a message to my students and my teaching community?
I am very honored to be able to speak with you. I love that you're wanting to learn and to grow and have those connections from around the world. And it's so nice to do that because we're all connected one way or the other, and that we're not separate entities. What distance and sometimes language can separate us. We all have that one common goal, especially as educators, that we want to see our students learn And I've just been watching your teacher, and I've watched his page and how he's always planning these amazing things and the accomplishments that he has done. And I like the way that you have taken it to make it global and not just keeping it like, okay, we're right here, but there's a world outside of your community. And that is something that is beautiful to have those connections. And I am thankful for that because I worked at a school that was international, and I can probably go to any country, and I have former students and I have other people that I know that are in those different areas. And it's just so nice that when you make those global connections, they're never strangers. You can always go and find someone and say, I know them, or I know someone that knows them. And the students keep learning, keep growing. You have an outstanding teacher that wants to bring the world to you and to let you know there are other things outside. So I can't wait to see some of the amazing things that your current students are doing. I know you have many stories of what some of your other former students are doing. But it's just a joy to be here. It was a joy to see how respectful and that your students were just in their comments, and just continue to be amazing. And your teaching community, it's nice from one teacher to another around our vast world. It's just nice to connect. Continue to be amazing and do what teachers do best, is work with our students.